Hello. Today we're going to be working in Lightroom and Photoshop to stack long exposure images. This is going to help make things look a little smoother, and it's also going to help with a little bit of clarity and noise reduction. So the first thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to go through this in a very simple way instead of my usual processes that I would do, such as like dodging and burning, or local little adjustments here and there, instead of global adjustments. That way I can just kind of go through the process here, and then whatever it is that you want to do, whenever you want to do your images, you can do those. But in the long and short of things, the process isn't really going to change very much. So the first thing that you want to do is you need to decide which image it is that you're going to be working with. Today, I've decided to use this Niagara Falls image. It's a little bit on the dark side. I have, as you can see up above, this was in late July. It's an 8-second exposure at f/16, 200 ISO at 70 millimeter. If I remember correctly, it was a slightly windy day, so I kept it at 70 millimeter instead of pushing to 300 and moving back. And I wanted to focus on most of the falls, which you'll see right around in here. The reason for this is I wanted these parts of the falls to look as clean as I possibly could, which is why the front is going to be a little bit on the blurry side, as you can see right down here. Now, I would normally shoot at 100 ISO, but it was getting a little bit darker, and I wanted to be able to, I didn't want a 30-second exposure. I actually should have went for like a 4 or something, but that's not the point of what we have going on here. So first things first, pick your photo, pick the image you want to work on. Do whatever adjustments to that particular image that you want. For this particular video, I'm just going to do an auto just to make it decent enough for now. Normally I would go through and clean up certain things, maybe get the spots out of here and things like that. Get rid of this little tree or fern down here, and then the spots and stuff. That you can actually do a little bit later, and we'll get to that once we get there. But something I want to show here is one of the reasons, as I mentioned before, why we're doing this is there's a lot of noise back here. We're not going to get rid of all of it, but we're definitely going to get rid of some of it. And that is what stacking is definitely going to help with. So get one image, and it depends on how many you do. I personally do 9 images. That way, if the tripod moves, or it's really windy, or somebody walks in front of you, or whatever the issue is, you might have one particular image that's not going to come out as well as you want, but at least have 3, maybe 4 images if you can. So what I'm going to do now is I've chose to do this image. I've set the settings. One thing I will say, and this is kind of important, if you boost the clarity too much, while it definitely helps with some dramatic effects and cleaning the image up, when you start to stack those images, what you're going to notice is a glow around the certain parts where there is a high contrast. Like this is a dark building and a light sky. You're not going to see it right now, but when you stack multiple images together, you're going to notice that effect, and it kind of takes away from the clarity and how clean and good an image could particularly look. So I'm not going to mess with clarity, texture, dehazing, or anything of that nature. No vibrance or saturation, nothing. I am going to take the chromatic aberration, and I'm going to turn that on. And now I'm going to hold the shift key on my keyboard and go and pick all 9 images, as you see right over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Count them individually, or you can look right where my mouse is. You can't quite see it because my camera's covering it, but it'll tell you 9 selected. Here, I can hide my webcam real quick. So you can see right here, 9 images selected. So that's what I wanted, was all 9 pictures. And now we're gonna sync all of those together. So what you want to do is once you've got all these highlighted, the images you're going to use, you're going to press the letter G on your keyboard, and that will take you to the library, and you can see all 9 images are highlighted. From here, down in the corner, you're going to see where it says Sync Settings. So you're going to click Sync Settings and just take a quick look at what it's going to sync. You want the treatment and profile, you want the basic, color grading, detail, lens correction, any effects, anything like, and calibration. What you don't want to do here is straighten your image or do spot removals or any kind of transformations, because later on it can kind of mess things up. It might not have the exact same spot, or you go to move one and another one's off a little bit. So not every time when you try to straighten a photo will Lightroom do it correctly. Sometimes it will, put the image correct, but sometimes it won't. So what you're going to want to do is correct that later once you get to the point where you've stacked all the images out of Photoshop and back into Lightroom, and I'll show you later on. So basically we want the treatment and profile, basic, color grading, detail, lens correction, and effects. That's it. And calibration, excuse me. So once you've got those together, click synchronize. It's gonna automatically make all 9 of those have the same settings, and it won't tell you that it's done. I wish that was a feature that Adobe would add, but you'll know. Just look at each photo. You can see that they're all done and ready to go. Now, I did miss one thing, so I'm gonna go back real quick to this photo. Something that I like to do, since I do take multiple long exposures, is I like to make sure that all the images I'm working with are somewhat, the camera didn't move too much, that they're all somewhat in place. And I'm looking at the corner of this building right here where the hand is on screen. So keep an eye on the corner of this. This is image 8007, and we're going to 8015. So I'm just gonna click on 8007, and I'm gonna press the right arrow key on my keyboard, and you'll see that the corner is pretty much staying in the same location. So the wind did not move my camera too much, thankfully. So we're gonna go through each one of these just to see how close they really are. Looks like so far they're all pretty good. Only got 2 left. Looks like we're good. All of them are good. So let's just double checking. I always like to double check everything, but now we've got them all highlighted. You can press the G key on your keyboard again. It'll take you back to the library. Everything should still be the same. All the settings are synced together. What we're gonna do now is take them over to Photoshop. So you wanna right click on any one of the images that are highlighted. I like to pick the very first one in line just to have it. I don't know if it actually makes a difference, but right click it, go to Edit In, and then you're gonna select Open Layers in Photoshop. You don't wanna edit in Photoshop. You don't wanna open as a smart, you just wanna open as layers in Photoshop. So we're gonna open as layers. It's gonna automatically open Photoshop, and it's gonna start adding all of those layers in one by one. This might take a little bit of time, and it takes a lot of system resources, so I might kind of bug out a minute. I'll fast forward to the next part once these are all loaded in. All right, all 9 images have been loaded. You can see my brush tool is ready, so there's no little spinning cursor, so I know I'm good to go. All right, now we're going to, as you see over in the corner, the first image is highlighted. You're gonna scroll down to the bottom one, press your shift key on your keyboard, and then left click, and it'll highlight all of the images that you have loaded as layers. For now, we're gonna go the easy route with layering and stacking these. Something that can be done if you want to really take another, push things a little bit further. And if your, your buildings or your subject or whatever it is just a little bit off, like we checked before in Lightroom to make sure that they were all very close, and they seem to be. There is an option to, under the edit key or under edit, you can go to auto align layers, and you pick auto and press OK, and it's Photoshop will go through each image individually and select as many pieces as it possibly can to line everything up even more. I don't do this as often as I probably should. I put a lot of trust into my camera and lens and the ground and my tripod not moving. So if you're taking pictures and you're on sand and it's sinking, or if it's a super windy day, it's going to be a little tricky because your long exposed shot isn't really going to be that clear anyway, because while the aperture is open and the camera is doing its magic, it's moving, and you want that to be as solid as possible. You can do this if you like. What this will do is we'll go ahead and do it. It's gonna, once again, it's gonna go through all of the layers and try to line them all up. It wants to make everything as lined up as possible. Sometimes this can be problematic whenever you're long exposing something like water, because it's trying to line up all of the little bits of water, and we know that like a splash or a wave or a waterfall is never going to have the same two moments ever. They're all individual. It's going to potentially mess a little bit up, but not always. Photoshop actually does a really good job of this. And to check, so what you can do from here is you can press and hold the Alt key and then scroll in with your middle mouse wheel, and you'll see that everything right here is really lined up on all of the images. But we won't actually notice anything until we get a little bit further down the road through this process. Now, what you can do is you can uncheck. You start unchecking these, and you'll see different parts that it tried to pick. It's kind of neat how this works, actually, but I don't want to get too much into this. So now that we've got our image all aligned and tightened up, we're going to go to the layer option up at the top. We're going to go to Smart Objects. Make sure everything on the side over here is still highlighted. And then you're going to go to Convert to Smart Object. This might take a moment, might not. It really depends on your PC, how fast your PC can process everything. I have already done this once before, so it's kind of cached and was a little bit quicker. You'll know this is ready when you see only one image or one layer over on the right side of Photoshop in the Layers tab. Now the next thing you want to do is basically the final part. You're going to blend them all together. So as you can see right now, we still have some of that grain up in the sky, and even down here in the water, you can see it's a bit grainy. And this is only at 200 ISO, so we're going to try to get rid of some of that and make this all look a little bit smoother, which is the whole point, the whole purpose here. So once you're ready to move on, you're going to go to Layer, Smart Object, Stack Mode, and then Mean. This could take a little bit longer than the original stacking or converting to smart objects. Really depends once again on your PC. I don't think it should take too long, but we'll see what happens in a sec. All done. Your image is now stacked. It's going to be all the images, all the pieces should be aligned, and everything should look a little bit smoother. So we're going to scroll up into this corner. It looks great. This is obviously, I didn't have the building as my focal point, so it's going to be not super focused. But you can see that there's no little hazy pieces to the right or to the left. some of, not all of the noise. Oh my goodness! Oh, the noise has gone from the back, and we're gonna check in here as well. You can see it's a little. It still has a little noise, but we can clean that up in other ways. That's basically it. Whenever you stack these. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to open up both. I'm gonna open this up in Lightroom here. I'm gonna go back to an original image just for a sec. I'm gonna drag this over. I'm gonna drag this over. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna zoom in so you can see the difference between the how the two look. So let's go over to this corner, and then we're gonna click right on that. And if you look, you can see over here, Lightroom has a lot of noise going on. The building itself it's grainy, but if you look here, this looks a lot smoother and a lot creamier. A lot of the noise is gone. We're gonna scroll down. Actually, you know what? We'll just do it this way. Hold the Alt key and move your middle mouse wheel, and that's how you can zoom in and out a little faster. Let's check out this part of the waterfall right above the stick. So let's go to the stick and the waterfall here. If you look over here on this side, you're gonna see that in Lightroom, this is the original image, not stacked on the left. You're gonna see that the stick has a lot of grain, and there's no definition in the waterfall whatsoever, and there's a lot of grain. If you look over here on the right, on the Photoshop image, you're gonna see that there's a lot less grain, and you start to see some definition in the waterfall, which is pretty amazing. So I'm gonna get these back into place just for this. All right, now we've got our image stacked. You did it. It's awesome. You're gonna notice that something is looking a little bit funny down here at the bottom. This happens. Once again, it was windy, so we have that little fern. You can trim that out. You can do whatever you want. I'm just gonna leave it for now, but you can get rid of that later. You still see the little dot there, the little spot was something on my camera, something there. Once again, we're not going to worry about those right now. We're going to take care of those when we go back into Lightroom. I'm going to just use a quick and cheap way to clean this up. I'm going to go to Image, Auto Tone, made it a little brighter, change the tone. You can do the same with Auto Contrast as well. And even if you want to auto color it, you definitely can. I don't particularly like the auto color, so I'm going to hit Control Z to undo. And here we have our image. Now, this is where we need to take it back to Lightroom to finish it up. Obviously, if you're more comfortable doing this, editing your raw files in Photoshop, you can definitely do that in Photoshop by going to Filter and then Camera Raw Filter. But I'm going to just take it back to to Lightroom, as some folks are more comfortable just doing things there, or they have a preset that they want to work with. So image is ready to go back to Lightroom. All we're going to do is click File and click Save. Once you click Save, it's going to save this image, and you are going to see it in Lightroom. So it'll pop up in just a moment whenever it is good and ready. And there it is, 13,315 is the number. You see it's highlighted automatically. Press the letter D for develop. And there is your stacked image. It's gonna be a TIFF file, TIF, as you see up here. Right there you go. If you don't have these showing, I do recommend personally having them up. It's good to see what you were shooting at, whether it was a second, a quarter second, 8 seconds, your aperture size, your f-stop, your ISO, whatever information you want, and you can pretty much have this say whatever you want it to show. There are a bunch of options. But let's kind of finish this up here and get along our way. So we wanted to clean these little dots up. Now you can do that once you have everything in here. So we're just going to go to the spot removal. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be. Enter twice. We got that one. I think there was one that was down here. Sometimes when you stack these, it's kind of neat. They automatically remove themselves because There might not have been one on one, but there was on the other. It doesn't happen all the time, but it'll blend right over it. So we're gonna clean this one. I think there was one up at the top here. Yeah, there's a couple up top, so let's just go up here like this. I'm gonna hold control and go like that. Got this one here. This one, this one. That's why it's really important to make sure that you clean off your lens beforehand, so you don't get these dots. But I'm literally standing in front of Niagara Falls, and the water is just kind of shooting all over the place, and it's windy. So you're gonna have this kind of these little spots are gonna show up more often than you would like. There are a couple more, as you can see, kind of right here and here. I'll clean them up just because, you know, I can't not clean them up. But I want to walk you through basically how this all will work. So I think that's pretty much it. There's one right there. And here's a little tip. Also, that one's kind of hard to see right here. What you can do is click on your spot removal and then scroll down to the dehaze right here. Obviously, bring the visualize spots. Ooh, wait, you can't see it. Let me hide my webcam. You go to the visualize spots. You can adjust this however you want. I don't like to have it all the way up because you can't quite see everything. So I do it about 80% of the way up. And the way that you can see things a little bit easier is scroll over, or go down to dehaze and just pull this all the way to the right, 100% dehaze. And you may or may not see them. Sometimes it's easier. It really depends. Just make sure you put that back to 0. We're going to take this one out. And I think that's pretty much it. We're going to pull the dehaze over just to see if we can see anything else. Yeah, see, there are a couple more up there at the very top. I don't know if you can see those or not, but sometimes you wouldn't see those if you were not pulling your dehaze up. And this is really important for whenever you go to print these out. You might not see it, but it's going to come up. It's going to show up whenever you print them out. So now we're mostly done. You want to click remove chromatic aberration. Remember before I mentioned you do not want to straighten the image under the transform section. You can do so now, and you can make this as level or whatever it is that you want to do. I'm gonna edit this just I'm gonna move this just a slight bit, and then click constrain crop. What you're gonna notice when it's in Photoshop, I'm gonna go back to Photoshop for a second. If you look really closely at these corners, you're gonna see sometimes that they aren't gonna line up. See that black line right here? How this is kind of messed up down at the corner. This is what happens in Photoshop whenever you do the auto align layers. It's literally taking and moving a piece of a photo over to match another one. So if you have a piece that sits here and it's over here, it's literally moving it behind it. That means the whole photo goes with it. And that's why you get these little alpha looking gray things in the background from the alpha layer. So you have to be very mindful of that whenever you're using that particular technique. So we're back in Lightroom. Let's take another look. As you can see, this looks a lot smoother. It's a lot cleaner than it was before. I know I mentioned before about not, moving clarity, texture dehaze, sharpening, or anything like that when you're doing individual images, because it can amplify it when you stack them all together. So now's the time that you can do any of those global or even individual layers, individual local settings. So I'm just gonna pull the clarity up on this one a little bit. This will help bring, if you look right here, if you watch, it really brings out the waterfalls. But the problem with that is it brings everything else out because this is a global setting. If you really wanted to, you could use the brush. You could make your own layer and mask just these parts. You could brush on them, and that will only do clarity or whatever it is that you want to do on that particular section. I'm just going to move it forward or to the right just a little bit there and pull the dehaze up. I'm going to bring the vibrance up just a little bit, and the saturation just a tiny bit. And then you can adjust anything else that you want from there. I'm not really going to mess too much with it. I kind of like how it looks as it is. But, well, you know, don't be afraid to mess around and see what you've got. Just remember that the whole point of this was to remove noise, add a bit of clarity by stacking things, and just overall give a more ethereal sometimes. It really depends on what you're shooting. If it's a waterfall and you want it to be more ethereal and more smooth, more dreamy, then that's what you're gonna that's the effect that you're gonna get from this. So, you know, just be mindful whenever you are going back and messing, not messing, but editing things and stuff. You see how this light up here is really, really bright, and it's kind of got an awkward looking thing to it. You can turn that down, you know, clarity, highlights, whatever it is, or completely remove it if you want. Totally depends. But yeah, once you're done, you know, just take a quick look, make sure everything looks good. Once again, there still is a little bit of noise. And that's okay. We can do noise reduction if you really want. Just remember that this is going to make things a little bit less sharp. It's going to be out of focus. As you can see on this stick is perfect, but look at the waterfall. Look at the difference in the waterfall. So I'm going to put the noise reduction back to the default, and you can still see there's a good bit of grain in here, and it doesn't look super awesome in some of the strands here. And look right there, I found a little spot. This is gonna be tricky because how do you? Yeah, that'll work. Actually, I'm gonna get rid of that. I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna leave it. It's not a super huge deal. That's kind of a bummer to get one right in the middle of a waterfall like that in the streak. But anyway, the point here was getting rid of noise, and you can play around with that. Don't push that too far because then you lose your clarity and your focus. The sharpening is going to definitely bring back, if you look right here, look how grainy that got. Look over here, look how grainy this all got right here. We're going to take the sharpness back just to give you an idea of what, you know, could happen. And then obviously, you know, color noise reduction. So let's go back to here. Just a little bit. Mess around, see what you like, but go for the clarity. Make sure things are as clean as you can possibly get them, and look around, you know, zoom in as much as you want. I was at pixel level there. It's not really worth it, but yeah, so that's pretty much it. You know, I would probably finish this off by just cropping it. I would get rid of this this bottom part. I didn't really feel like editing out that right now, but you totally could if you want. And the best way to do that is, in my opinion, save your work that you're at, export this file, and then open it in Photoshop and use the magic tools over there, or just, you know, right click, edit in Photoshop and edit that way. But I would probably cut this off as a 4x5, which is what fits on Instagram. So just go to the 4x5 over here, and now you've got an image that is ready to go for Instagram's 4x5. Hit enter, and now there's your photo. Export it, and you're done. And I'm going to export this now. I'm going to export that. That's it. If you have any questions, you run into any problems while you're trying to stack these images, just shoot me a message, and I'll try to help out and answer things however I possibly can. I know this ended up going about 30 minutes. I hope it wasn't too long of a process, but I'll tell you this, once you do this a couple times, you will have, it'll become second nature. You're just gonna zip through these like no problem. So have fun, happy editing, stay safe out there, take care, and thanks again for reaching out, asking how to stack long exposures in multiple images. Take care.